Seb, why so remote a question which thyself can answer to thyself, for thou wert with him, his favourite, as I oft have heard thee boast, and nearest to his soul. Alv, too near indeed, forgive me, gracious heaven, that ever I should boast I was so near, the confidant of all his young amours. And have not you, unhappy beauty, heard to arm? Have you not often heard your exiled parents were refuged in that court and at that time? 'Tis true, and often since my mother owned how kind that prince was to espouse her cause. She counselled, nay, enjoined me on her blessing, to seek the sanctuary of your court, which gave me first encouragement to come, and with my brother beg Sebastian's aid. Seb, thou helpst me well to justify my war. To arm my dying father swore me then a boy, and made me kiss the cross upon his sword, never to sheath it till that exiled queen were by my arms restored. And can you find no mystery couched in this excess of kindness? Were kings ere known in this degenerate age, so passionately fond of noble acts, where interest shared not more than half with honour? Seb, base grovelling soul, who knowst not honour's worth, but waste it out in mercenary scales. The secret pleasure of a generous act is the great mind's great bribe. Alv, show me that king, and ill believe the phnix. But knock at your own breast and ask your soul, if those fair fatal eyes edged not your sword more than your father's charge and all your vows? If sown so your silence grants it is, no king your father had like you a soul, and love is your inheritance from him. Almeda's mother too had eyes like her, and not less charming, and were charmed no less. Then yours are now with her, and hers with you. Thou least impostor, perjured fiend, thou least. Seb, warst not enough to brand my father's fame, but thou must load a lady's memory. O infamous, O base beyond repair! And to what end this ill-concerted lie, which palpable and gross yet granted true? It bars not my inviolable vows. Alv, take heed and double not your father's crimes. To his adultery do not add your incest. No, she's the product of unlawful, and 'tis your carnal sister you would wed. Seb, thou shalt not say thou wert condemned unheard, else by my soul this moment were thy last. But think not oaths shall justify thy charge, nor imprecations on thy cursed head. For who dares lie to heaven thinks heaven a jest. Thou hast confessed thyself the conscious pander of that pretended passion, a single witness infamously known against two persons of unquestioned fame. Alv, what interest can I have, or what delight, to blaze their shame or to divulge my own? If proved you hate me, if unproved condemn. Not racks or tortures could have forced this secret, but too much care to save you from a crime, which would have sunk you both. For let me say, Almeda's beauty well deserves your love. Out base impostor, I abhor thy praise. Dor, it looks not like imposture but a truth, on utmost need revealed. Seb, did I expect from Dorax this return? Is this the love renewed? Dor, sir, I am silent. Pray heaven my fears prove false. Seb, away, you all combine to make me wretched. Alv, but hear the story of that fatal love, where every circumstance shall prove another, and truth so shine by her own native light, that if a lie were mixed it must be seen. Seb, no, all may still be forged and of a piece. No, I can credit nothing thou canst say. Alv, one proof remains, and that's your father's hand, firmed with his signet both so fully known, that plainer evidence can hardly be, unless his soul would want her heaven a while, and come on earth to swear. Seb, produce that writing. Alv, to Dorex Alonso has it in his custody, the same which when his nobleness redeemed me, and in a friendly visit owned himself, for what he is I then deposited, and had his faith to give it to the king. Dor, untouched and sealed as when entrusted with me giving a sealed paper to the king. Such I restore it with a trembling hand. lest aught within disturb your peace of soul. Seb, draw near, Almeda, thou art most concerned, for I am most in thee tearing open the seals. Alonzo, mark the characters. Thou know'st my father's hand, observe it well. And if the impostor's pen have made one slip, that shows it counterfeit, mark that and save me. Dor, it looks indeed too like my master's hand. So does the signet, more I cannot say, but wish 'twere not so like. Seb, methinks it owns the black adultery and Almeda's birth, but such a mist of grief comes o'er my eyes, I cannot, or I would not read it plain. Heaven cannot be more true than this is false. Seb, oh, couldst thou prove it with the same assurance? Speak, hast thou ever seen my father's hand? No, but my mother's honour has been read by me and by the world in all her acts, in characters more plain and legible than this dumb evidence, this blotted lie. Oh, that I were a man as my soul's one, to prove thee traitor and assassinate. Of her fame thus moved, id tear thee thus staring the paper, and scatter o'er the field thy coward limbs, like this foul offspring of thy forging, brain scattering the paper. Alv, just so shalt thou be torn from all thy hopes, for no proud woman know in thy despite. The most authentic proof is still behind. Thou wear'st it on thy finger, tease that ring, which match to that on his shall clear the doubt. 'Tis no dumb forgery, for that shall speak, and sound a rattling peal to either's conscience. Seb, this ring indeed my father with a cold and shaking hand, just in the pangs of death, put on my finger with a parting sigh, and would have spoke but faltered in his speech, with undistinguished sound. Alv, I know it well, for I was present now. Almeda, speak, and truly tell us how you came by yours. My mother, when I parted from her sight, to go to Portugal, bequeathed it to me, presaging she should never see me more. She pulled it from her finger, shed some tears, kissed it, and told me 'twas a pledge of love, and hid a mystery of great importance, relating to my fortunes. Alv, mark me now, while I disclose that fatal mystery. Those rings when you were born and thought another's, your parents glowing yet in sinful love, bid me bespeak a curious artist wrought them, with joints so close as not to be perceived. Yet are they both each other's counterpart. Her part had one inscribed, and his had Zeta. You know those names are theirs, and in the midst a heart divided in two halves was placed. Now if the rivets of those rings enclosed fit not each other, I have forged this lie, but if they join you must for ever part. Sebastian, pulling off his ring, Almeda does the same, and gives it to Alvarez, who unscrews both the rings and fits one half to the other. Seb, now life or death, and either thine or ours. I am lost for ever. Swoons the women, and Morima take her up, and carry her off. Sebastian here stands amazed, without motion, his eyes fixed upward. Seb, look to the queen my wife, for I am past all power of aid to her or to myself. Alv, his wife, said he, his wife, oh fatal sound, for had I known it, this unwelcome news had never reached their ears, so they had still been blessed in ignorance, and I alone unhappy. Dor, I knew it but too late, and durst not speak. Seb, starting out of his amazement, I will not live, no, not a moment more. I will not add one moment more to incest. I'll cut it off and end a wretched being. For should I live, my soul's so little mine, and so much hers, that I should still enjoy. Ye cruel powers, take me as you have made me miserable. You cannot make me guilty, 'twas my fate. And you made that not Roman one draws his sword. Antonio and Alvarez lay hold on him, and Dorax wrests the sword out of his hand. Ant, for heaven's sake hold and recollect your mind. Alv, consider whom you punish, and for what. Yourself unjustly you have charged the fault on heaven that best may bear it. Though incest is indeed a deadly crime, you are not guilty, since unknown 'twas done, and known had been abhorred. Seb, by heaven you are traitors all that hold my hands. If death be but cessation of our thought, then let me die, for I would think no more. Ill boast my innocence above, and let them see a soul they could not sully. I shall be there before my father's ghost, that yet must languish long in frosts and fires, for making me unhappy by his crime. Stand oft and let me take my fill of death struggling again, for I can hold my breath in your despite, and swell my heaving soul out when I please. Alv, heaven comfort you. Seb, what art thou giving comfort? Wouldst thou give comfort who hast given despair? Thou seest Alonso silent, he's a man. He knows that men abandoned of their hopes should ask no leave nor stay for suing out a tedious writ of ease from lingering heaven, but help themselves as timely as they could, and teach the fates their duty. Door to Alv and Ant, let him go. He is our king and he shall be obeyed. Alv, what to destroy himself, O parricide? Door, be not injurious in your foolish zeal, but leave him free, or by my sword I swear to hew that arm away that stops the passage to his eternal rest. Ant, letting go his hold, let him be guilty of his own death, if he pleases, for ill not be guilty of mine, by holding him. The king shakes off Alv. Alv to Door, infernal fiend, is this a subject's part? Door, 'tis a friend's office. He has convinced me that he ought to die, and rather than he should not, here's my sword to help him on his journey. Seb, my last, my only friend, how kind art thou, and how inhuman these. Door, to make the trifle death a thing of moment. Seb, and not to weigh the important cause I had to rid myself of life. Door, true, for a crime so horrid in the face of men and angels as wilful incest is. Seb, not wilful neither. Door, yes, if you lived, and with repeated acts refreshed your sin and loaded crimes with crimes to swell your scores of guilt. Seb, true, if I lived. Door, I said so, if you lived. Seb, for hitherto was fatal ignorance, and no intended crime. Door, that you best know, but the malicious world will judge the worst. Alv, oh, what a sophister has hell procured to argue for damnation. Door, peace, old dotard. Mankind that always judge of kings with malice will think he knew this incest and pursued it. His only way to rectify mistakes and to redeem her honor is to die. Seb, thou hast it right, my dear, my best Alonso, and that but petty reparation too, but all I have to give. Door, your pardon, sir. You may do more and ought. Seb, what more than death? Door, death, why that's children's sport, a stage play death. We act it every night we go to bed. Death to a man in misery is sleep. Would Yahoo perpetrated such a crime as frightened nature made the saints shake heaven's eternal pavement with their trembling. To view that act would you but barely die, but stretch your limbs and turn on t'other side, to lengthen out a black voluptuous slumber, and dream you had your sister in your arms. Seb, to expiate this can I do more than die? Door, oh yes, you must do more, you must be damned. You must be damned to all eternity, and sure self-murder is the readiest way. Seb, how damned? Door, why is that news? Alv, oh horror horrid. Door, what thou a statesman, and make a business of damnation. In such a world as this, why 'tis a trade. The scrivener, usurer, lawyer, shopkeeper, and soldier cannot live but by damnation. The politician does it by advance, and gives all gone beforehand. Seb, oh, thou hast given me such a glimpse of hell, so pushed me forward even to the brink of that irremeable burning gulf, that looking in the abyss I dare not leap. And now I see what good thou mean'st my soul, and thank thy pious fraud thou hast indeed appeared a devil but didst an angel's work. Door, 'twas the last remedy to give you leisure For if you could but think I knew you safe. Seb, I thank thee, my Alonso, I will live, but never more to Portugal return. For to go back and reign, that were to show triumphant incest and pollute the throne. Alve, since ignorance. Seb, O palliate not my wound. When you have argued all you can tease incest. No tease resolved, I charge you plead no more. I cannot live without Almeda's sight. Nor can I see Almeda but I sin. Heaven has inspired me with a sacred thought. To live alone to heaven and die to her. Dor mean you to turn an anchorite? Seb, what else? The world was once too narrow for my mind. But one poor little nook will serve me now, to hide me from the rest of humankind. Afric has deserts wide enough to hold millions of monsters, and I am sure the greatest. Alve, you may repent and wish your crown too late. Seb, oh never, never, I am past a boy. A sceptre's but a plaything and a globe. A bigger bounding stone he who can leave. Almeda may renounce the rest with ease. Dor, oh truly great. A soul fixed high and capable of heaven. Old as he is, your uncle cardinal is not so far enamoured of a cloister, but he will thank you for the crown you leave him. Seb, to please him more, let him believe me dead, that he may never dream I may return. Alonso, I am now no more thy king, but still thy friend, and by that holy name adjure thee to perform my last request. Make our conditions with yon captive king. Secure me but my solitary cell. Tease all I ask him for a crown restored. Dor, I will do more. But fear not, muley Zayden, his soft metal melts down with easy warmth, runs in the mould, and needs no further forge exit Dorax. Re-enter Almeda, led by Morima, and followed by her attendants. Seb, see where she comes again. By heaven, when I behold those beauteous eyes, repentance lags and sin comes hurrying on. This is too cruel. Seb, speak'st thou of love, of fortune, or of death? Or double death, for we must part, Almeda. I speak of all. For all things that belong to us are cruel. But what's most cruel, we must love no more. Oh, 'tis too much that I must never see you. But not to love you is impossible. No, I must love you, heaven may bate me that, and charge that sinful sympathy of souls upon our parents when they loved too well. Seb, good heaven, thou speak'st my thoughts and I speak thine. Nay, then there's incest in our very souls, for we were formed too like. Too like indeed, and yet not for each other. Sure when we part, for I resolved it too, though you proposed it first, however distant, we shall be ever thinking of each other, and the same moment for each other pray. Seb, but if a wish should come athwart our prayers, it would do well to curb it if we could. Seb, we cannot look upon each other's face, but when we read our love, we read our guilt. And yet methinks I cannot choose but love. I would have asked you if I durst for shame. If still you loved, you gave it ere before me. Why were we not born both of a sex? For then we might have loved without a crime. Why was not I your brother, though that wish involved our parents' guilt, we had not parted. We had been friends, and friendship is no incest. Seb, alas, I know not by what name to call thee. Sister and wife are the two dearest names, and I would call thee both, and both are sin. Unhappy we that still we must confound the dearest names into a common curse. To love and be beloved and yet be wretched. Seb, to have but one poor night of all our lives. It was indeed a glorious guilty night. So happy that, forgive me heaven, I wish, with all its guilt, it were to come again. Why did we know so soon, or why at all, that sin could be concealed in such a bliss? Men have a larger privilege of words. Else I should speak, but we must part, Sebastian. That's all the name that I have left to call thee. I must not call thee by the name I would. But when I say Sebastian, dear Sebastian, I kiss the name I speak. Seb, we must make haste or we shall never part. I would say something that's as dear as this. Nay, would do more than say 1 moment longer. And I should break through laws divine and human, and think them cobwebs spread for little man, which all the bulky herd of nature breaks. The vigorous young world was ignorant of these restrictions. 'Tis decrepit now, not more devout but more decayed and cold. All this is impious, therefore we must part. For gazing thus I kindle at thy sight, and once burnt down to tinder light again, much sooner than before. Re-enter Dorex. Here comes the sad denouncer of my fate, to toll the mournful knell of separation, while I as on my deathbed hear the sound that warns me hence for ever. Seb, to Dor now be brief, and I will try to listen, and share the minute that remains betwixt the care I owe my subjects and my love. Dor, your fate has gratified you all she can, gives easy misery and makes exile pleasing. I trusted Muley Zayden as a friend, but swore him first to secrecy. He wept your fortune, and with tears not squeezed by art, but shed from nature like a kindly shower. In short, he proffered more than I demanded, a safe retreat, a gentle solitude, unvexed with noise and undisturbed with fears. I chose you one. Oh, do not tell me where, for if I knew the place of his abode, I should be tempted to pursue his steps, and then we both were lost. Seb, even past redemption, for if I knew thou wert on that design, as I must know because our souls are one, I should not wander but by sure instinct, should meet thee just halfway in pilgrimage, and close for ever, for I know my love, more strong than thine and I more frail than that. Tell me not that, for I must boast my crime, and cannot bear that thou shouldst better love. Dor, I may inform you both, for you must go where seas and winds and deserts will divide you. Under the ledge of Atlas lies a cave, cut in the living rock by nature's hands, the venerable seat of holy hermits, who there secure in separated cells, sacred even to the Moors, enjoy devotion, and from the purling streams and savage fruits have wholesome beverage and unbloody feasts. Seb, 'tis penance too voluptuous for my crime. Dor, your subjects conscious of your life are few, but all desirous to partake your exile, and to do office to your sacred person. The rest who think you dead shall be dismissed under safe convoy till they reach your fleet. But how am wretched I to be disposed? A vain inquiry, since I leave my lord, for all the world beside is banishment. Dor, I have a sister abbess in Terceras, who lost her lover on her bridal day. Their fate provided me a fellow turtle, to mingle sighs with sighs and tears with tears. Dor, last for myself, if I have well fulfilled my sad commission, let me beg the boon to share the sorrows of your last recess, and mourn the common losses of our loves. Alv, and what becomes of me must I be left, as age and time had worn me out of use? These sinews are not yet so much unstrung to fail me when my master should be served, and when they are, then will I steal to death, silent and unobserved, to save his tears. Seb, I've heard you both. Alvarez, have thy wish, but thine, Alonso, thine is too unjust. I charge thee with my last commands, return, and bless thy Violante with thy vows. Antonio, be thou happy too in thine. Last, let me swear you all to secrecy, and to conceal my shame, conceal my life. Dor, and more, we swear to keep it secret. Now I would speak the last farewell, I cannot. It would be still farewell 1,000 times, and multiplied in echoes still farewell. I will not speak, but think 1,000,000, and be thou silent too, my last Sebastian. So let us part in the dumb pomp of grief. My heart's too great, or I would die this moment, but death, I thank him, in an hour has made a mighty journey, and I haste to meet him. She staggers, and her women hold her up. Seb helped to support this feeble drooping flower, this tender sweet so shaken by the storm. For these fond arms must thus be stretched in vain, and never, never must embrace her more. Tease past me soul goes in that word farewell. Alvarez goes with Sebastian to one end of the stage, women with Almeda, to the other Dorax, coming up to Antonio and Morima, who stand on the middle of the stage. Dor, haste to attend Almeda for your sake. Your father is forgiven, but to Antonio he forfeits half his wealth, be happy both. And let Sebastian and Almeda's fate this dreadful sentence to the world relate, that unrepented crimes of parents dead are justly punished on their children's head. This whimsical account of the slave market is probably taken from the following passage in The Captivity and Escape of Adam Eliot, Roman 1000a. By sunrising next morning, we were all of us who came last to Sally driven to market, where the Moors sitting tailor-wise on stalls round about. We were severally run up and down by persons who proclaimed our qualities or trades, and what might best recommend us. To the buyer I had a great black who was appointed to sell me this fellow, holding me by the hand, coursed me up and down from one person to another, who called upon me at pleasure to examine what trade I was of, and to see what labour my hands had been accustomed to. All the seamen were soon bought up, but it was midday ere I could meet with a purchaser. See A Modest Vindication of Titus Oates, London 1682. The knight much wondered at his sudden wit, and said the term of life is limited, ne may a man prolong nor shorten it. The soldier may not move from watchful stead, nor leave his stand until his captain bed. Fairy Queen, Book Roman 1 Canto 9. The same artifice is used in Dippus Val Roman 6p 149, to impress by a description of the feelings of the unfortunate pair towards each other a presentiment of their fatal relationship. The prophecy of Nostradamus is also obviously imitated from the response of the Delphic Pythoness to Dippus Ibid cp 156. For interpreter, more usually spelled dragoman, a horrid Moorish punishment, the criminal was precipitated from a high tower upon iron sides and hooks, which projected from its side. This scene Settle introduces in one of his tragedies. These presages of misfortune may remind the reader of the ominous feelings of the Duke of Guise, in the scene preceding his murder. The superstitious belief that dejection of spirits without cause announces an impending violent death is simply but well expressed in an old ballad called The Warning to All Murderers. And after this most bad pretence, the gentleman each day still felt his heart to throb and faint, and sad he was alway. His sleep was full of dreadful dreams. In bed where he did lie, his heart was heavy in the day, yet knew no reason why. And oft as he did sit at meat, his nose most suddenly would spring and gush out crimson blood, and straight it would be dry. There is great art in rendering the interpretation of this ominous dream, so ingeniously doubtful the latter circumstance, where the emperor recognizes his murderer as a personage in his vision, seems to be borrowed from the story of one of the caliphs who before his death dreamed that a sable hand and arm shook over his head a handful of red earth, and denounced that such was the color of the earth on which he should die when taken ill on an expedition. He desired to know the color of the earth on which his tent was pitched. A Negro slave presented him with a specimen, and in the black's outstretched arm bared from respect to the elbow, as well as in the color of the earth, the caliph acknowledged the apparition he had seen in his sleep, and prepared for immediate death. Et quam fata valant bina, venina juvent Ausonius. Idiots were anciently wards of the crown, and the custody of their person and charge of their estate was often granted to the suit of some favourite, where the extent of the latter rendered it an object of plunder, hence the common phrase of being begged for a fool. This incident seems to be taken from the following passage, in the continuation of the adventures of Don Sebastian. In Morin, an island some half-league from Venice, there is an abbot called Capillo, a gentleman of Venice, a grave personage, and of great authority. Hearing that the king laid wait for certain jewels that he had lost, hoping thereby to recover some of them, having a diamond in his keeping with the arms of Portugal, came to the town to the conventicles of St. Francis called Frari, where the king lay concealed, for that he was pursued by some that meant him no good, who no sooner beheld the ring but he said, Verily, this is mine, and I either lost the same in Flanders, or else it was stolen from me. And when the king had put it upon his finger, it appeared otherwise engraven than before the abbot enquiring of him that brought him the ring how he came by it. He answered, It is true that the king hath said. Hence arose a strange rumour of a ring, that by turning the stone you might discern 3 great letters engraven SRP, as much as to say Sebastianus Rex, Portugalix, Harl Mies Val Roman 5p 462. It is said in the pamphlets alluded to that Don Sebastian, out of grief and shame, for having fought against the advice of his generals, and lost the flower of his army, took the resolution of never returning to his country, but of burying himself in a hermitage, and that he resided for 3 years as an anchorite on the top of a mountain in Dalmatia. Epilogue. Spoken betwixt Antonio and Morima. More I quaked at heart for fear the royal fashion should have seduced us two to separation, to be drawn in against our own desire. Poor I to be a nun, poor you a friar. And I trembled when the old man's hand was in. He would have proved we were too near of kin, discovering old intrigues of love like t'other, betwixt my father and thy sinful mother, to make us sister Turk and Christian brother. More excuse me there, that league should have been rather betwixt your mother and my mufti father. 'Tis for my own and my relations' credit. Your friends should bear the bastard, mine should get it. And suppose us two, Olmeda and Sebastian, with incest proved upon us, more without question, their conscience was too queasy of digestion, and thou wouldst have kept the counsel of thy brother, and sinned till we repented of each other. More beast as you are on nature's laws to trample, 'twere fitter that we followed their example. And since all marriage in repentance ends, 'tis good for us to part when we are friends, to save a maid's remorses and confusions. E'en leave me now before we try conclusions, and to copy their example first make certain of one good hour like theirs before our parting. Make a debauch o'er night of love and madness, and merry when we wake in sober sadness. More ill follow no new sects of your inventing. One night might cost me 9 long months repenting. First wed, and if you find that life a fetter, die when you please, the sooner, sir, the better. My wealth would get me love ere I could ask it. Oh, there's a strange temptation in the casket. All these young sharpers would my grace importune, and make me thundering votes of lives and fortune won. Footnote. Alluding to the addresses upon the Revolution.